Okay, if you wanted no spoilers at all, go to the other video where I could only allude to how the casting news with Ryan sort of doesn't work with the end of Buffy. So I didn't want to spoil too much of Buffy, the main show, but of course, if you're a more hardcore fan, we're going to get into that as well as the quote leaks. And let's be very clear, these are not official leaks. This is not the actual production company. These are just rumors, but we'll go through them. And just to catch people up, Ryan, who worked on the Skeleton Crew, was picked by Sarah Michelle Gellar herself. They actually did a nice little video together. And it was announced basically she's going to be the co-lead and presumably the new Buffy of the reboot. And Sarah is saying that this is a follow-up to the main series, and presumably Angel should also be canonical, although that brings up other questions with Angel and Spike, but we'll get into that down the road. Okay, so let us get to this. These are leaks, unofficial leaks, so get ready. At the heart of this news story is Nova, a high schooler who's all about slaying vampires. She's fearless and determined, juggling algebra homework with stalking. Think of her as the next chosen one, carrying the weight of a double life just like Buffy. And her dad is Abe, who is a photojournalist in his 40s or older, probably snapping pics of more than just local events. There's Mr. Burke, the school librarian who takes a dark turn by becoming a vampire, right? And there's Cole, basically a Xander knockoff, the confident alpha type who naturally takes charge. He's got the makings of a Xander or a Faith, steering the group through chaos. Hugo is someone from a rich family, awkward but sweet, with a crush on Nova. And there we are. Okay, and Gracie, Nova's best friend, obsessed with myths and a huge Buffy fan. She might just be the Willow of the bunch. And finally, Mia, a supporting character hooked on social media who stumbles into the supernatural mess. Her phone might end up being more useful than she thinks. Okay, so this new cast obviously is skewing much younger. It's saying people or teens in their 20s. So I assume Ryan is going to be in high school and she's the new Buffy. So they're taking the structure of the early seasons and just changing around a few parts. Okay, so the main confusion is who or what is Ryan? So Sarah is saying she is a new Buffy. She does have Slayer power. But the leaks don't really match up to what Sarah's saying. So I'm going to try to minimize spoilers, but I'm going to have to spoil huge amounts of the season. So just be aware of that because it may be a little confusion. But if you do, just put down the comments. I can answer all questions. I've seen so much of Buffy. It's crazy. And the podcast and behind the scenes. So anyway, so several questions. Okay, so the leaks are saying that Ryan, Nova, if this is going to be Nova or is it going to be another character? Don't know. Okay, let's presuppose Ryan is Nova. So Nova will already be slaying, and then Buffy intervenes. So she's already slaying, so I guess Buffy's just going to help her be a better Slayer. I mean, this is one of the confusions with the end of season 7. Essentially, several things happen. One is the Watchers Council gets decimated. There are still some Watchers, because we see that with Angel. However, they usually would be bad guys, right? If they weren't like Giles, a very rare independent watcher, they're either working for Wolfman Hart, the bad guys, or they're just retired, but they're still loyal to the Watchers Council. So that's a little confusion. Because again, with the spell that Willow cast in season 7, it doesn't seem there is a need for a Watchers Council. The whole point of the council is they look out for potentials, right? Girls who could become the Slayer, and if the Slayer power passes on to them, they are ready and they will train that individual Slayer. So I thought the spell just gave all the potentials of that time period, and that's a huge number, right? We're talking dozens and dozens of women have the Slayer power. And we see that with the end of season 7 when they're fighting the Turrican, the Uber Vamps, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of confusion. Like, okay, so she's supposed to be the new chosen one. But the Chosen One mythology was basically destroyed at the end of season 7. Again, Joss authorized this, right? He was there. I mean, Marty Noxon was technically the showrunner, but it was both of them. So apparently Joss was like, don't worry. And Angel did rectify a lot of things, follow up. Like, we know what we're doing here. And he did plan out season 8. And yes, I read the comic that is season 8. It's a bit of a doozy. So going with the comic and Joss's own comments, That seems to be the new canon. There are tons of new Slayers. The Council is done. Buffy, Xander, and so on. They are the new Council. So this should be a world that has dozens and dozens of Slayers, right? What's the point? You don't need a new Slayer. There's no need for a chosen one. And some people are trying to get out of this by saying, oh, it's like Star Wars, right? Like you have the Jedi, but you also have a chosen one. So you have normal superheroes, but then you've got the super extraordinary chosen one. That doesn't work. And again, I don't want to get lost with the Star Wars mythology. The whole point with the prequels is the chosen one is an extraordinary event, and the Sith are as well. This is all a myth. To the Jedi, the chosen one is a myth. It's like, oh, there is a chosen one. We just thought we were talking about it, right? They don't know for sure. And events from the Acolyte complicate that. We're not going to get into that. With just going with the prequels, again, they think the Sith are dead. To them, the Sith are like the chosen one, something so far back in the past, like hundreds, if not thousands of years. We don't know what you're talking about, right? That's a long time ago. Again, with the prequels, normal Jedi live, they train, they do whatever they do, they die, right? So there's no Force ghost continuing or giving them updates. So again, it's very clear that Joss borrowed a lot from Star Wars. There's no doubt about that. He acknowledged that. But there's a primary difference, right? So unless something radical happened in verse, like a strange spell that gave everyone mass amnesia or took away the powers, right? It just doesn't make any sense. They know from living memory, right? The girls we see were either late teens or early 20s in Buffy in season 7. So they forgot that they're Slayers. They all got killed off. Who or what killed them off? Where is Angel and Spike in all this? Where's Wolfram and Hart? I mean, there are other players in the Buffyverse. In fact, there's a lot of clever fan theories, like with Jasmine and Angel and things that happen there. Yeah, they are all interconnected. It's highly doubtful Wolfram and Hart would just let all these Slayers be destroyed because they've got their own self interest. So it just brings up a lot of alarming world building questions. So are they doing like a massive retcon button? There is no Wolfram and Hart. Angel and Spike are now radically changed too. It's just bringing up a lot of questions. Now, these are leaks. This is not official. This is not coming from Sarah, who's now producer. So this could all be garbage. However, some of this does ring true. I mean, obviously, we're going to get a younger cast, right? That makes sense. We're going to have a new Slayer. That makes sense too. But Sarah's saying we're continuing the story of season 7, but these leaks don't match that up. And if this is close to the truth, it's really confusing because why would Buffy even care? There presumably is now a Slayer Council, right? A new council. They presumably take over the hard work. Like, why would Sarah or Buffy in particular care about Nova or Ryan? Like, why is she special? There is no chosen one. And if they brought back the chosen one mythology, there are still some problems because allegedly they're going to shift the location from California, right? Because Sunnydale was destroyed to New York, right? The Hellmouth was destroyed at the end of season 7. That's a major part of the mythology. The Hellmouth, the quote, other Hellmouth, there are 2 of them, is not in New York. So why New York? So yeah, it just seems that, which is fine. Like we knew that. Let's be very clear. Joss pushed the retcon button a lot. He did. Like there are just things that season 1 don't match up to season 2, don't match up to season 3. We could go through all the retcons. I know all of them, and they are very weird. In fact, one of them is a massive contradiction with what Giles is saying about vampires, with what we learned with season 7, which is like, wait, that does not match up with what you said. But anyway, so the retcon button has been pushed. It was pushed internally in Buffy. It is what it is. We know this because of behind the scenes drama with Angel as well. So things are changed. They're changed internally and externally. So that is not alarming. But changes of this kind are massive. They are massive changes. So the dilemma is, even if you don't like Joss, he was the captain of the ship. Again, people might say, oh, there were other writers or producers. That is actually a myth. A lot of the writers have come forward in interviews long before the scandals, guys. This has nothing to do with the scandals. They came forward, as well as the actor, saying Joss was there a lot more than people think. Now, because of Angel and Firefly and other commitments, he wasn't on the set, but he always overlooked all the scripts. I mean, we're talking all the scripts and made substantial changes, substantial editing, and he even did free work. Like, he would help writers and actors and say, okay, I'll just come up with the dialogue. I will do this. You will get the money. You will get the credit. However, I did that. So this is not mythology. This is not rumor. It is fact. This has been fact attested to. Joss is the auteur here. He's the overwhelming author of most of Buffy and most of Angel. So you cannot argue, well, it's not really bad jazz. It was really sad. No, it is Joss. So these radical changes, again, maybe they'll get lucky. This new creative team, which does include some old writers, will pull a miracle and they will balance both these retcons. But, and again, even Joss's retcons, I'm not a big fan of. However, he at least had the idea in his brain. He worked out all the complications, took this stuff seriously. So it's just very unclear where we're going to go with this. Now, that said, a miracle could happen. They've got people who are very careful with mythology, but I would predict the one parallel with Star Wars will be like this. It will be like the prequels that, again, a lot of people will love it. It will have its own fan base, but a lot of people who are OT hardcores, like the original trilogy, will say correctly, like, this does not fit the original story. You've changed so many things. There was no prophecy in the original trilogy. There just wasn't. But now you've changed it that there is a prophecy, so it's like, oh, Luke and Vader are connected to the prophecy. That is not in the original story. That is not in the original story at all. So now we're like having two chosen ones, which doesn't make sense either. That is not in the mythology. So we'll just have to end up that Buffy seasons 1 to 7 told one story. This is telling its own story. They're interconnected, but it's not the same story. It is not really one story. It is the author having 3 chapters and deciding, okay, I'm going to add 3 more chapters, right? Prequels. I'm going to radically change everything, good or bad. That's what I'm going to do. And Sarah is now going to take over. So we had one author with basically 7 seasons, and we'll see how long Sarah lasts with this one. But it will be a new season, new story, radically changing the other story. Whether fans are going to accept this radical reshifting or rechanging, we're going to have to wait and see. But I foresee a lot of polarization ahead. And it's not going to be like, whatever, fake. I think a lot of hardcore fans are going to be really puzzled. Like, wait, that does not fit. This does not fit season 1. Doesn't fit season 3. I mean, the hardcore Buffy people have gone down on this, and it'll be interesting. I'm sure a lot of them will be okay with a lot of the changes, but I'm thinking some of the changes are going to be like, whoa, that is way too far. That is too out there. And we're going to have a little bit of a backlash.